Hi, Sarah here with a design team project for Crafty Ribbons. You can see here some of the beautiful ribbons that you can order from Crafty Ribbons. I will leave links below for everything I do use in this project. As you could see, I did pick out lots of things that are quite seasidey, and you'll be able to see why very soon. So to begin with, I am just painting this wooden panel with gesso. I do apply a couple of coats of this down the sides as well. I don't film the whole thing. This is me on my second layer here, so I let it dry and then add another coat. So that is my base for my mixed media project today, which is using the Thompsons Crafts Nautical kit, which I think they may still have some left, so I will be sure to link that shop down the bottom as well. So now I'm adding a fairly thick layer of crackle paste, but what I do with this, instead of letting it dry naturally, which is the best way to get a good crackle from crackle paste, I do actually heat it up and I hold it quite close and I get a bubbly effect instead, as you can see there, which works well on this project. But if you're going for crackles, don't do that. Leave it to dry naturally. That's the best way to get crackles. And now on top of that, I'm using this stencil and adding some glass bead paste, which I like the effect, but not for this project, but I do think it is quite an interesting texture that you do get from it. And I'll give you a little bit of a close-up in a second of how that looks. And with this, I just leave that to dry. Now that's dry, I've taken out my 3D gloss gel, which is a really good adhesive. And I've also got some sand paste. So first off, I'm adding a layer of sand paste across the bottom of the panel there. I'm just giving it a good mix up because it had settled on the top with too much liquid, so I needed to mix it up a bit to make it smooth out properly. And the little brush I'm using is a silicone brush, so it's not a normal bristled brush, and that's by Prima, and it works really well for spreading out pastes and things on your projects. Now I'm taking some art stones. I've got large, medium and mini, and I've got some 3D gloss gel, which is basically glue, and I'm just making a stony paste basically. So I add the large first, then I'm adding a few of the medium sized ones, and then I mix it up again, and then finally I add some little bitty ones, which are kind of more like grit than stones, but they are tiny little stones. And it just bonds them all together a bit more. And once I've got this paste, it could have probably have done with a little more gloss gel, but there is enough to adhere it down. I do then add with a brush a little bit onto where I want to add the stones, so that it makes sure they stick properly, and then I simply just scoop them up and smush them on. So I'm just adding some 3D gloss gel first, which dries completely clear, so it may look a bit messy, but once it's dried you can't see it at all. And as you can see, I'm just piling them on, scooping them up, nudging them around, and because the sand paste is still quite wet, it means that it does actually stick into it. You can sort of push them in a little bit, and now that is dry, or it might not be dry. Now it's dry. And now it's completely dry, I can add some colour. So I've taken the Mermaid Incredible Inks by Jane Davenport, and I'm just adding some bluey coloured, I think it's called blueberry, to my background. As before, I did add quite a lot of gesso. It means that it does move around quite well, and I can add quite a lot of water to it. But I do add the blue on and then dab the colour back off again, because I just want to create subtle layers, and I only use a very small amount of ink and smudge it around. Next I'm using some Prima paint there, and I'm just adding it around the edge, and then afterwards I do spritz it with water and spread it out again and try and blend it down the panel, and then dab off some of that as well to make it more subtle. Back to the Incredible Inks again. I'm using a sort of, it's a kind of a skin colour, I think it's called tinsel or something, and I just add that to the stones along the bottom to create a sandy kind of look to it. And I use water to make sure it sinks in between the stones, so it gives a bit more of a, it highlights the stones a little more. So I just add some of that, and then I want it to be a little more vibrant, so I add some yellow Prima paint again. And once I've added that on, I again spritz it and it waters it down, makes it more subtle, and spreads it all out neatly across the stones. Well, not neatly. Now I'm coming in with some more brown over the top to dampen down the colour a bit because it was quite yellow, and then I do add an even darker chocolate colour one, and just add a little bit of that over the top of the very bottom to add a bit of a shadowy wet sand kind of look, I guess, so it's drier towards the top. And I just keep adding bits of water to make it soak in nicely, and then once I've got a nice mix of the yellow and browns together, I do then add some kind of hilly sand dune type things in the background as well to try and make it look a little bit like it's in the background. I'm not too worried about realism here, it's more just, I just do want to get a bit of a seaside effect though, but nothing too accurate. So now I've mixed the aqua coloured paint, a little bit of the blue ink and some white acrylic paint, and I've not completely mixed them, so it does give a sort of streaky effect on my brush, and I just apply that straight down, and I'm just painting in a little bit of a sea kind of seaside effect, kind of in the distance horizon sea bit. And I turned it on its side just to make it easier for me to do a bit of more of a straight line, and then now I'm just filling in where the yellow had seeped up. Now I'm going to start adding my embellishments. So first off, I'm adding this piece of net. All these things came in my kit, and I'm just trimming it off around the edge. So I'm going to add that large piece and then a smaller piece on top. So I'm back with my gel medium again, which, as I said, it does dry completely clear, so I don't need to worry about that. So I apply some underneath, and then I go over the top and dab it on top as well to make sure it sticks down. I'm adding another layer here so I can stick that second piece down, and I just make sure there's plenty of the gel on there, but as you can see, once it's dried it just disappears, which is brilliant. Now here's my teeny weeny photo to go on my teeny weeny palette. I'm taking some cheesecloth here, or gauze, depending on what you call it, and I'm just adding some double-sided tape on the back. I'm adding a bit of the paper which came in my kit just to back that on, and did a torn edge to that as well. Now I've got some ribbons. I did want to use more, but I decided on this cute striped nautical one which went really well with the umbrella that is one of my ephemera pieces, and also the Ric Rac in the sandy colour, which just worked wonderfully at the bottom there. So now I've got quite a few little embellishments. I'm going to start sticking things down again with the trusty 3D gel medium, which just works wonderfully. So I'm adding down my little quote title type piece there. I'm adding down my ribbons here, sticking them into the gel and into the gauze to help it all stick down behind the photo. I'm adding some bits of Hessian here. There is a Hessian piece, there it is, and I just tore off some edge pieces and just added them in for extra texture, and then my picture goes on top. I'm now taking off the little legs of some brads, which are seashells, and I'm going to add them on in a second. Just moving around some embellishments, so I've got a little camera, a couple of Prima flowers as well. Quite a few of the embellishments are Prima's Saint-Tropez collection, so I'm just adding a few clusters here and there around the three main focal points on the page, which is the photo, the umbrella, and then the quote at the top in the heart. So once I've got them flowers down, I also nestle in some shells there at the bottom, which I'd taken the brad legs off, And next I also add that cute little heart, which I want to add. I want to balance out the cluster with just a little something on the other side. So I just took that neatly behind the photo. And I'm also trimming off the gauze there because I felt like it was moving too far into the center there. And now I'm moving on to some more bits that came in the kit. These are rainbow resins. It is actually a shop, and this collection was made exclusively for that kit, so I'll also link her shop below. She makes beautiful resin cabochon flowers. So I'm adding a few here and there in amongst the clusters, as well as some of the little gems that also came with those. I'm adding my cute little nautical bow at the top. I love those stripy ribbons, they are so cute. And now I'm adding a few sequins, which are Spiderman scraps, also made exclusively for the kit that I'm using. I'm struggling a little to get them down, so I just use my paintbrush. There's a wee close-up of how I'm getting on so far. Now everything's down and I'm happy with it. I'm trimming off just the edges off those ribbons, and I'm going to go over my background because I want to add the netting in, but in paint behind the umbrella on the other side. I also wanted to mute down the rope or fishing net, so I do add quite a bit of just white gesso over the flowers and all different bits, just to make it a little more subtle. And now I'm just painting in some of the rope and using a mermaid marker in brown and just watering it down and adding in the lines. And I think I am pretty much done. Yes, that's me done. So thanks for joining me. I do actually add some ribbon at the end as well, and they'll be in the picture. So thanks for joining me. Please check out Crafty Ribbons for all the beautiful ribbons that you can get from there, and I'll see you again in another video.